Okay.
Hare Krishna, we can see you.
Something just happened. Let me just straighten it out because I just installed a new operating system and all of a sudden everything disappeared. I just hear your voice, but I don't have the picture. So let me go out and come back in again. Hare Krishna. Okay. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. So I'll just chant for a couple minutes and then we can begin. Hare Krishna. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivachari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivachari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Paribhasha Acharya Ashto Tarashata Shishimat Srila Asi Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Dalila Pravishnu Om Vishnupada Ashto Tarashata Shishimat Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Thakur Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत राधा शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपिनाथ श्यामकुंद राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की वृंदावन धाम की मायापुर धाम की गंगमयी की जमुनमयी की तुलसी देवी की भक्ति देवी की सामवेद भक्तवृंद की श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की बृहद विरंग की Nitai Gopamanandi Shri Avirbhava Mahotsava Shri Advaita Acharya Avirbhava Mahotsava ki Jai Shri Advaita Acharya ki Jai. All glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to the assembled devotees, Nitai Gopamanandi. So Hare Krishna, I'm happy to welcome everyone to this humble program, humble offering of mine to that on this auspicious day of Advaita Acharya's appearance. And I today I want to read one part of from Chaitanya Charitamrita, just that somehow or another this screen is blocking my access. So let me just do something here. I might disappear for a minute because I have to get to the, see, I can do that. Okay. So I would like to read a few verses because today I'll speak about about the ontological position of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then I will speak about the some of his pastimes and his relationship, his intimate relationship with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I would just like to read the two verses that are associated, that are given in the beginning of Chaitanya Charitamrita about Advaita Acharya, and then we'll read a couple more verses so that we can understand what is his position. Mahavishnu Jagatkartam Mayaya Sprichatyada Tasyavatara Ebayam Advaita Acharya Ishvara. So this is originally from the beginning of Chaitanya Charitamrita, but now it's being repeated in this chapter, and it's being sixth chapter, and then now it's being broadcast and understood and developed fully the idea of these two verses. Lord Advaita Acharya is the incarnation of Mahavishnu, whose main function is to create the cosmic world through the actions of Maya. And the second verse, Advaitam Harina Advaitad Acharyam Bhaktasam Sanat Bhaktavatarami Tam Advaita Acharyam Ashraye. Because he is non-different from Hari, the Supreme Lord, he is called Advaita. And because he propagates the cult of devotion, he is called Acharya. He is the Lord and the incarnation of the Lord's devotee. Therefore, I take shelter of him. Of course, there's no purports for those verses. So I'm just going to read a few translations and then one other verse, and then we can discuss a little bit. Sri Advaita Acharya is indeed directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. His glory is beyond conception of the ordinary living beings. Mahavishnu performs all the functions for the creation of the universes. Sri Advaita Acharya is his direct incarnation. That Purusha, meaning Advaita Acharya, creates and maintains with external energy. He creates innumerable universes in his pastimes. By his will, he manifests himself in unlimited forms, in which he enters each and every universe. Sri Advaita Acharya is a plenary part of that Purusha, and so is not different from him. Indeed, Sri Advaita Acharya is not separate, but is another form of that Purusha. He, Advaita Acharya, helps in the pastimes of the Purusha, with whose material energy and by whose will he creates innumerable universes. Being a reservoir of all auspicious attributes, Sri Advaita Acharya is all auspicious for the world. His characteristics, activities, and name are always auspicious. Mahavishnu creates the entire material world with millions of his parts, energies, and incarnations. Just as the external energy consists of two parts, the efficient cause, nimitta, and the material cause, upadana, Maya being the efficient cause and pradhana, the material cause, so Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, assumes two forms to create the material world with efficient and material causes. And so here we have one of the longest purports in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Lord Vishnu, in his efficient aspect, which means Mahavishnu, glances over the material energy, and Sri Advaita, as the material cause, creates the material world. So that's what I wanted to read up to this point. And so, Om Jnana Timirandasya Ganam Jana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Hina Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadati Shva Parantikam. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavati Paschatya Shatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashari Gaura Bhaktivinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is the technical part of this understanding of Advaita Acharya, which is following the general uh, format of our acharyas. They explain the tattva. Understanding the tattva, you can understand the rasa or the lila or the activities. Without understanding, just like without understanding that we are aham brahmasmi, well, we're spirit souls, we cannot understand the activity of the soul. Although Srila Prabhupada says many times, to understand the living entity, you must understand the activities of the living entity. It's not enough just to understand that the living entity is a spiritual spark, but what is the purpose of that spiritual spark? From the impersonal point of view, or the atheistic point of view, where everything is centered on the individual living entity. So, so what is important is that little tiny amount of bliss that's available in the when a living entity is merged into the Brahman. But to really understand the real nature of the spirit soul, just like it says in the Upanishads, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko Bahunam Jo Vidadati Gaman, that of all the eternals, Krishna is the supreme eternal, meaning we are all parts and parcels of him eternally. And of all the conscious beings, the most conscious is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, meaning our consciousness may extend into the body and throughout the body, but the but we can't perceive much farther than that. We can see some things, we can understand the world, we can understand some aspects of the universe, but then someone else will have another understanding. So tattva means the real truth, the truth that includes everything. So that truth that includes everything is Vishnu, Mahavishnu. Everything is included. Everything in this material energy is included within him. So therefore, he, by his energy, he expands himself by breathing. That's how much effort does the Lord have to make to create this material energy? Just like we have to spend so much time and energy just to produce some little thing, or we think it's such a great technological advancement to make an automobile or an airplane or a rocket or a satellite. But the Lord has given us the intelligence to do all that, and given us the conception of something that flies in the sky, something that exists, something that gives shelter. This is all done by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so just by breathing, just by sleeping while breathing, or breathing while sleeping, I'm sorry, he creates unlimited universes. And then for those universes to actually become manifest, there has to be the touch of material nature. And that touch of material nature within all the universes, not within one universe. Lord Shiva, he takes that function within the universe. But when the Lord manifests the potency of the material energy to begin to create and begin to create variety and to manifest three modes of material nature, he has a special form, which is Mahavishnu, and the extension of that form is called Sadashiva. Sadashiva is the original form of Shiva. Srila Prabhupada mentions, I think I separated that quote. No. Here's a quote from Srila Prabhupada. This is from a class on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela 112. So Srila Prabhupada says that, so we have to go like that, meaning take a spiritual initiation. As Chaitanya Charitamrita is explaining, we have to follow this principle. Then if you are really inquisitive to learn the absolute truth, they will explain as here it is explained, that here Advaita Acharya is Ishvara. He's incarnation of Mahavishnu. Sometimes Advaita Acharya is called Sadashiva Avatar. The Sadashiva is also expansion of Mahavishnu. So either way you say, incarnation of Sadashiva or Mahavishnu, it doesn't matter. But Advaita Acharya is Ishvara Tattva. He's not Shakti Tattva. He's Ishvara Tattva. And we will all, and we are all Shakti Tattva. Therefore, there is a difference. Shakti, Shaktiman. Although there is no difference, Abhina. But still, Shakti Tattva is superior, or Shaktiman Tattva is superior than Shakti Tattva. So, to illustrate this point, there was a pastime of Lord Chaitanya where Lord Chaitanya was speaking after he had initiated by giving them names to Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, and he blessed them. He told them, now to get the real essence of spiritual life, please take dust from the feet of Sri Advaita Acharya. And of course, immediately they fell down before Advaita Acharya. And Advaita Acharya said, my dear Lord, you are the proprietor, and I am simply the keeper of the storehouse. Whatever you order me to do, I will do, and whatever you want me to distribute, I will do so. So then he spoke to Rupa and Sanatana Advaita Acharya and said that now you will be empowered to serve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the way that he wants. So this was the blessing. So afterwards, Lord Chaitanya was with Srivas Thakur, and he said, Srivas, I want you to explain the glories of Advaita Acharya. And of course, all this is done by Lord Chaitanya's will. Although each individual devotee is answering according to his understanding, that understanding is given by Krishna, or by, in this case, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Matashmitar Jnanam Apohanam Cha, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, he empowers a devotee in a certain way. And of course, to be empowered by Lord Chaitanya, as is stated in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Shakti, I'm sorry, no. The verse, Kali Kalera Krishna Nam Sankirtan, that in this age of Kali, that Sri Krishna Sankirtan is the actual process. Krishna Shakti Vina Nahi Tara Pravartana. To have Krishna Shakti, to have Krishna's empowerment through the Sankirtan movement must be there. Otherwise, one cannot chant the holy name. One cannot successfully perform devotional service. So this Lord Vishnu, in his efficient aspect, glances over the material energy, and Sri Advaita, as the material cause, creates the material world. Although the Sankhya philosophy accepts that the material ingredients are the cause, the creation of the material of the world never arises from dead matter. And so then, of course, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami goes into a very deep explanation So this is what we have to understand. Sadashiva is Lord Narayan. He is Vishnu. He is not the Shiva that we see in this material world. He is the origin of all Shivas, and his form is exactly like Vishnu. As it says in Brahma Samhita, that that the Krishna and his direct incarnations are like milk, and Lord Shiva is like yogurt. So you can make yogurt from milk, but you can't make milk from yogurt. So with a slight tinge of material energy, which comes because Sadashiva has no tinge of material consciousness or material energy, but he is the controller, of the material energy. Just like I think it's first canto, seventh chapter. Just trying to remember the verse where I think it's sixth verse, or I'm sorry, fourth verse. So I'm just looking it up because I can't remember. Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranihite male apashat purusham purnam mayam cha tad apashrayam. That the material energy takes shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, Lord Narayan. Of course, in her highest manifestation, she is Shrimati Radharani, Ladini Shakti. But she begins to, just as Vishnu expands, she expands. So just as she expands herself into Lakshmi, and Vishnu is expanded from Krishna, Lakshmi from Shrimati Radharani, then Vishnu, he expands himself. And there are unlimited expansions. Just like it says in the third chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Avatara Sankya Hare Satyaninam Dija Yata Vidhanisha Kulya Sarasa Sut Sahasranaha, which means, O Brahmanas, the incarnations of the Lord are innumerable, just like rivulets flowing from inexhaustible sources of water. So otherwise, there's so many incarnations, but one of the chief incarnations is Lord Vishnu. So anyway, going back to an illustrative story, that so Advaita Acharya, he was standing there, and Srivas and Lord Chaitanya and other devotees were at a distance. And so Lord Chaitanya said, Srivas, please tell me, who is Haridas? So Srivas thought, and he said, my Lord, he's actually he's actually great, just like Prahlad Maharaj and Shukadev Goswami. And immediately Lord Chaitanya said, what? You're comparing me, my Nada, my dear Advaita, to Prahlad, and to Shukadev? They're just like children. They're just like infants compared to him. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the origin and the of all of their prowess, and he is the goal of their life, and the goal of their meditation, and the goal of their prayers. So please don't think that way. So, of course, Shivas took that very carefully, but most of us, meaning most of us, most of the world, most people in India, most people in general do not understand Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And what's most difficult to understand about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which Advaita Acharya was explaining, is that sometimes he wants to act like an ordinary person, and generally he wants to act like a devotee and a servant of his devotees. So it's very difficult for him to hear something about himself. But then Lord Chaitanya said, you're both fools. how can you think that Advaita Acharya is none other than Supreme Personality of Godhead? And of course, personality of Godhead, but supreme in the sense that he is supreme. And he said, how can you compare them to these children? He is the greatest personality. He is the personality who personally called me on the ocean of milk. As we know, Advaita Acharya was on, that he was in Navadvip before Lord Chaitanya appeared. Shivas and him, they were very intimate friends. And one day, because of Shivas's loud chanting, the one very influential Muslim man was challenging him. Why are you doing this? Why do you have to chant so loud? And especially the Brahmins, they became very upset, saying that you're going to cause the king to come here and stop all of our yagyas. Of course, they were concerned about their yagyas because their yagyas were their means of livelihood. So then, amidst all that confusion, some Brahmins and neighbors came to the house of Srivas, and they said, if you don't stop your nocturnal chanting, which is causing such a disturbance, we can't sleep on one side. On another side, the Muslim king is going to come and condemn us and cause very great panic and problems to our community. So they said, the next time you chant like this, we're going to tear down your house, and so that the Muslims will be appeased. So we want to help people. We don't want to tear into our own principles to help someone, especially if they're simply wanting help on the material platform. So when Lord Chaitanya heard about this, he became, I'm sorry, Lord Chaitanya wasn't here. This is another incident. So when Advaita Acharya heard about this, he said that I have to do something. So he sat down and he began to pray, and he thought of a verse, which I didn't go look up, but I should have. But he thought of this verse that says that if you simply offer tulsi leaves into the Ganga with the same Ganga water, then you can achieve all auspiciousness. So he thought about that, and he took some tulsi leaves, went to the Ganga, and began to offer prayers. And he got the name Hunkara. Hunkara literally means a very deep, resounding, powerful voice. So Advaita Acharya, he made the promise to bring the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then there was more harassment and more harassment from the Brahmins, which led to more harassment from the king. Of course, the Brahmins who were Smarta Brahmins, they would just they would make all these arrangements with the king and other people to dislike the actual activities of the devotees. So Advaita Acharya, he was very upset. And then one day, the envious Brahmins came and they tried to cause a disturbance in the house of Shivas, and they created so many disturbances that Advaita Acharya, all the devotees were coming to him, and he said, the only person, because they asked him, they said, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why don't you stop these people? And Advaita said, I can't do that. This could only be accomplished, that real peace, real satisfaction can only be accomplished by calling directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that he come directly, Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna is the only one who can really help in this situation. There's no one else. And so he said, I have already called him, but if he doesn't come, because of the threat that was made to Srivas's house, He said, let it be known that I personally will call for my Sudarshan chakra and I will cut off their heads. So, of course, Advaita says that, but he is an ocean of compassion. One of the verses that we just read says that that Advaita Acharya is, on the one hand, an incarnation of the Supreme Lord, and on the other hand, he's called Acharya. He must teach by example. And it wouldn't be a very good example to come and cut people's heads off with a Sudarshan chakra, because that's not an example. That is a demonstration of the power of the Lord. So the Lord came to give an example of how to chant the holy name and spread the holy name, and at the same time feel internally the mood of Srimati Radharani. And Advaita Acharya came, that's why it's in the Panchatattva mantra, one of the Panchatattva mantras. Okay, Panchatattva become Tattvam, then Bhaktavataram. Advaita is known as Bhakta Avatar. He is the Lord himself in the form of his own devotee. He is the perfect devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he's giving the example. He's Acharya. And he was very respected all throughout Navadvip. He was one of the most respected personalities. So then Advaita Acharya, he again performed a yajna for calling the Lord. And the Lord agreed. And he told everyone that the Lord had agreed. And so the Lord was very pleased that his devotee, he was also showing that he doesn't come out of his own will, because everything is already happening by his will. He doesn't have to come to make some change, but to show that he cares for his devotees, that he loves his devotees, that he wants to facilitate his devotees. He comes on their request. So Advaita Acharya, being the incarnation of a devotee, he had to show how to solicit the Supreme Lord. We should not think that the Lord automatically, although he understands everyone, he's within everyone's heart, also as an expansion of Advaita Acharya. He knows what his devotee may feel, but the devotee wants to demonstrate, the devotee wants to show the Lord the degree of his love and his devotion. Advaita Acharya became so attached to Lord Chaitanya, even before the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. Advaita was the first one to know that the Lord was coming in a very special form. So when Mother Shachi had just become pregnant, she didn't have any signs of, being pregnant so far. Advaita Acharya came to the house of Jagannath Mishra, walked right in. Usually, of course, when you come to somebody's house, you greet them. He walked right in, went up to Mother Shachi and offered gifts. Then he walked around her 7 times. And then he put sandalwood paste on her head, and then sandalwood paste on her abdomen. Now, of course, Jagannath Mishra completely trusted Advaita Acharya, but he thought this was kind of unusual behavior, so he called to him again and again, but he was like in a trance. And then he stood before Mother Sachi and he bowed down, offered obeisances. He got up and he began to worship the Lord, offer incense, almost like an artik, because he knew that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was within the womb. So and then when he was ready to leave, Jagannath Mishra demanded, he wanted to know, why are you acting like this? And Advaita Acharya said, you will find out. He was the first one to know. Of course, Lord Chaitanya sent all of these empowered people he sent Lord Brahma as in two places. He sent Lord Brahma as the residence of Nanda Maharaj or Nandagram. He sent him as Haridas Thakur, uh, and uh, and he also sent Lord Shiva in the form of Advaita Acharya, Parasada Shiva, and also in the form of a mountain uh, to house the Varshana. So this is how Advaita Acharya showed his extreme dedication and affection to to his Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, Advaita, he always wanted to worship the Lord. And so there was a wonderful pastime that when Advaita Acharya was, when Lord Chaitanya had been born and grown up, and then finally he manifested himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead after having gone to Gaya, meeting with Ishvara Puri, getting initiated. He came back chanting the holy name in ecstasy. And Advaita, of course, he heard about this. But then Lord Chaitanya said that I cannot do this alone. I cannot spread the Sankirtan movement alone. Therefore, someone has to go call Advaita. And so everybody looked around. Finally, Ramai Pandit, the brother of Srivas Pandit, was selected to go invite Advaita Acharya. So he went there, and he went, and on his way he was thinking, how can I convince such a great personality of anything? So he spoke to Advaita. Advaita received him very nicely. And Ramai Pandit said that your wish has been fulfilled. That Supreme Lord whom you always worship with all your heart and your soul has come to Navadvip and is inviting you to come. And then Advaita said, so how can the Lord be here? He's so gigantic in form. It can't even compare to anything within this material world. How can I, how can I do anything in respect to this? So Ramai Pandit said, he's come. You must come and see him. And Advaita was so overcome with ecstasy just to hear that the Lord had come. He said, what did you say? Are you asking me something? And he repeated it. The Lord for whom you prayed has come. And Advaita waited for a minute. He said, I'm sorry, are you trying to tell me something? He was so full of ecstasy. And Srivas said it again. And Srivas said that, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that the Lord has come. So anyway, what I'm going to do, I want you to go and tell some of my devotees that I will be coming, especially that I want to come to the house of Nandanandan Acharya. And then I will make an arrangement that I can come and meet Gaurasundar. So he sent Ramai Pandit back. He reported that he was supposed to start a kirtan. So they began a kirtan. And Advaita Acharya, in the meantime, was gathering up all of his paraphernalia, everything he needed to worship the Lord. And then he came and when he arrived in the house of Nandanandana, and when he arrived in the house of Nandanandana, he told him, don't tell anybody I'm here. And so after Ramai returned with Lord Chaitanya, he said, so Advaita Acharya, he said that he would go somewhere and I should await his instructions. And Lord Chaitanya said, he is testing me. He's testing me. So you should go there. I'm sorry that Ramai didn't tell Lord Chaitanya where he was. And he told Ramai that we need to find him. So he told Haridas Thakur and Shivas Pandit that they should go to the house of Nandanandana and invite him to come. And so they arrived there, and Advaita Acharya saw that this is Lord Chaitanya, because how could he know that I was here? So he immediately came, and when he started to offer uh, his obeisances and got out his paraphernalia for worshiping, the Lord said, "My dear Advaita, I've been waiting for you so long. I've been looking for you so long." But still, Advaita, although he was worshiping him, he was still in such ecstasy that he couldn't understand what was happening. And finally, Lord Chaitanya called him and embraced him and said, "You are my eternal servitor. You are my expansion. You are everything to me." And that's the way that Advaita Acharya met with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, testing him. But when anyone would test Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, something would happen that would reveal to that person that Lord Chaitanya already knew what they were up to, what they were doing. So, so that was how Advaita greeted the Lord. Now, there's one very, very famous pastime, which many of you may know, some may not, which is also explained very nicely, that when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas, or even before taking sannyas, he spoke to Nityananda, and he told Nityananda, "My dear Nityananda, I have something very a great secret to tell you, something very, very secretive, something that cannot be revealed. I'm going to take sannyas," he said. And Nityananda said, "I anticipated that, but I don't know what others will do. I myself will accompany you." And then um, when he did that, he said that uh, that uh, let's go. He took sannyas. He started actually for Vrindavan. They crossed the Ganga, and they went toward a little bit toward northwest. But Lord Chaitanya was in such ecstasy that he was getting lost and turning around, going in different directions. And Lord Nityananda was accompanying. So Nityananda Prabhu, uh, he was trying to devise a way, because he could see how devastated the residents of Navadvip were. Because even when they announced, when Advaita Acharya and many devotees arrived at the house of Sachi for the daily activities on the day that Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, Sachi Devi was sitting outside, and she said, um, "You can have this house. It has no meaning now that Nimai has gone away." And so Advaita could understand that he had taken sannyas. And he said, "Alas, let me just break open my head and finish this life. What is the use of this life without Lord Chaitanya?" He began running toward the Ganga when a voice came from the sky and said, "Don't worry, he will be back." I can't remember if it was 8 days or 12 days, but one of the two. And so, uh, so they were all calmed down by that. So Lord Chaitanya was wandering. Then Nityananda Prabhu devised a scheme. There were many cowherd boys. So he saw two cowherd boys, and he told them that, "Please, if this mendicant Chaitanya comes, he'll be looking for Vrindavan. Just tell him, when he asks for Vrindavan and the Yamuna, tell him that it's over here on the left." And so they said that he gave them something, and they were very happy. And when Lord Chaitanya came, they said, "Oh yes, the Yamuna is that way." So Lord Chaitanya arrived there on the banks of the Ganga, thinking it was the Yamuna. He took off his sannyas garments, and he went into the water. At that moment, Advaita Acharya appeared. He came on a boat, and he said then Lord Chaitanya said, Advaita, what are you doing here in Vrindavan? How did you get here so quickly? And so, of course, Lord Chaitanya wasn't in Vrindavan either, but he thought he was. And so Advaita said, my dear Lord, that yes, I have come to accompany you. But then Lord Chaitanya figured out this is Ganga. And he said, Nityananda, you cheated me. And Advaita said, no, no, no. He hasn't cheated you because the Yamuna flows in from the west and the Ganga comes in from the east, and we're on the western bank. So therefore, he's right. He's okay. So Lord Chaitanya reluctantly accepted, and then Advaita made the invitation, let us all go and take prasadam at my house. But I have to warn you, I'm a very poor Brahmin. I can't afford to, to feed so many people or to do it very sumptuously. So then they put Lord Chaitanya in the boat, and of course Advaita had brought some dry dry clothing. Sorry, I've been working with a lot of documents lately. So, so then when they arrived at the house, Advaita Acharya had already cooked, and he said, Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda were sitting there, and so he began to serve. And Lord Chaitanya, of course, he had just taken sannyas, so he was very desirous that he would be a very strict sannyas. He said, just give me a little. And Advaita said, no, I'll give you whatever. I'll just fill up the pot halfway. But every time Lord Chaitanya would eat something, he would fill it up halfway again, did it hundreds of times. And finally, Lord Chaitanya said, how can I as a sannyasi maintain my seriousness and my vows if I'm eating such opulent foodstuffs? And Advaita said, well, no, don't worry, my Lord, that I know you're simply trying to cheat me. In Jagannath Puri, you're accepting 54 offerings every day. And here I'm giving you some meager foodstuffs. And you're thinking that is too much. Simply sit down and eat. And of course, everyone was in Advaita Acharya's favor. They all wanted to see the Lord eat. What to speak of Mother Sachi. But Lord Nityananda said, what kind of a Brahmin are you? I've been fasting for 3 days, wandering all over, and I came here to have a feast, and you're starving me. He said, what kind of a so-called Brahmin are you? And Advaita was a little angry. He said, how can I deal with a mendicant like you, who is just an avaduta, who has no fixed place of residence, who has no possessions? But we don't know where you come from. We don't know what kind of a supposed sadhu or saintly person you are. We can simply see that you're a troublemaker. And so they argued back and forth. And finally, Lord Nityananda took some Mahaprasadam, threw it on the floor in front of Advaita, and some of it bounced up and stuck onto his body. And then Advaita was very, 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 very angry. And so, not Advaita, Nityananda and Advaita began to dance in ecstasy. And then they began this playful pastime of exchanging back and forth. That you're just, Nityananda would say, Advaita, you're just a smarta Brahman, attached in rules and regulations. But you're not even a proper grihasta because you don't feed the mendicants. And Advaita would say, yes, I feed mendicants, but not madmen like you. And so they argued blissfully in this way. And of course, there were many such incidents. And since we won't have time for questions, there's only a couple minutes left, I'm just going to tell another quick pastime about Advaita Acharya. In Jagannath Puri, Advaita Acharya would come, and he came one time for the whole Chaturmasya. He didn't always come. But this time he came and he brought his wife, and they told told the devotees that they wanted to cook something very nice for Lord Chaitanya. But at that time, there were many sannyasis, and they wanted to go wherever Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to go. So Advaita was thinking, if all these devotees come, then it will be very, very difficult. Lord Chaitanya will just take a few mouthfuls. So Advaita began to pray to Lord Indra to please help me, please do something. I want Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to come to my house. This torrential storm started over everybody's house except Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya, his whole pathway was dry all the way to the house of Advaita. But this pouring rain and wind didn't allow anyone else to come out. So Lord Chaitanya came alone. And Lord Chaitanya said, Advaita, I think you've been praying to Indra. I heard there was some rain. So why are you praying to Indra? And they both smiled. But then Advaita could serve the Lord preparation after preparation after preparation, and the Lord accepted it all. Because if all the other sannyasis would have been there, Lord Chaitanya would have given the example of just taking a little bit as a devotee. But before Advaita, he was not just a devotee. He was the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepting Advaita's offering, and he took it. And Advaita was extremely pleased. So I know that now in Trinidad you have the Artik, Gora Artik, and so I will stop here. And any questions that anyone may have or had, they can, I don't know, they can send it somehow or another. And I will try to answer at some point in time. I don't know how or when, but I don't think there's a whole lot to ask questions about. But maybe another day we can have another program and just some questions and answers. If anyone has them, jot them down and I will answer. Thank you all very much. All glory to Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga, Sri Advaita Acharya, Avirbhava Mahotsava Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev. Thank you so much.
So Umapati Prabhu, you'll take over from here. I hope I got it right that we were supposed to stop here.